and welcome to lesson 4, how to play the chromatic button accordion B system. Okay, today's tune is called Home on the Range. This is a classic old cowboy song that I used to sing and play back in the late 50s, early 60s when I was a lad, and it's a really good one to play. And for the first time we're going to be playing 3 chords. We're going to add 1 chord to the chords we already know, the C and the G. We're going to add F, and we'll show you that a bit later on in the lesson. But first of all, as always, we're going to get to grips with the right hand and the notes that we use. So we're going to need to look at the 3rd page of the tune and to the section that says notes used in this tune. Of course, these are notes as found on this particular instrument, which is the Black Diamond 60 bass chromatic button accordion B system. Your instrument might have less basses or may have more, but I'm dealing specifically with this instrument because this is the one I own. So from lowest note to highest note we have G, row 2, button 1, A, row 3, button 1, B, row 1, button 2, C, row 3, button 2, D, row 1, button 3, E, row 2, button 4, we have F, row 1, button 4, G, row 2, button 5, and C, row 3, button 6. So you can see that we've got 2 different G notes. We've got one down here, one up there, and we've got 2 C notes, one here and one here. They are an octave apart. I've put the fingering underneath the notes used in this tune, and if you look at the D, E, F and G notes, as the higher of the 2 Gs, you'll see that sometimes we play the D with the thumb, sometimes with the 2nd finger. The E, sometimes we play it with the index finger, sometimes with the 2nd finger. The F, bit of a nightmare this one, because sometimes we play it with the 4th finger, sometimes with the thumb, sometimes with the 3rd finger, sometimes with the 2nd finger. And the G, the upper G, is 2nd finger or 3rd finger. You might say, well, why complicate the issue? Why not have just the same finger each time? Well, it depends on which part of the tune you're playing. You will see that it does make sense to use different fingering. It's a bit complicated, but once you've got to grips with it and you've got to grips with the patterns, you'll find that it's absolutely fine. I've said before in previous videos that the right hand fingering that I've come up with is what works for me. It may not work so well for you. You might want to come up with your own version of it, and if you do, that's great. Just come up with a plan, as I said on the printed page there, and stick to that plan. But if you're not too sure what to do, just use my fingering and it works absolutely fine. If you don't stick to a pattern or a plan with your right hand, you might find you'll get a bit tangled up, a bit lost, and that's when the mistakes start creeping in. So it's definitely worth investing in the time that it takes to get that right hand sorted out. If you go back to the title page and to the beginning of the tune, that start looks a bit complicated, doesn't it? You've got the treble clef, you've got the 3 over the 4 telling you you're counting in 3s, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so it's a waltz if you like. Then you've got a little block sitting on one of the lines of the stave, and it says above that is a minim rest or a 2-beat rest. So you actually start by resting. The first 2 beats of the first bar there are silent. So you go 1, 2, and you come in on beat 3 with that low G. And when you do that, that low G is called an anacrusis. Bit of a complicated word. That's written on the 3rd page in one of those boxes. It's worth remembering. If you can't remember it, doesn't matter. But that incomplete bar with that note in it, that note is called an anacrusis. So you actually start on beat 3 with that low G. So you go 1, 2, and you come in on beat 3. Then you can see a thick line, a thin line and 2 dots. And that's a repeat sign. When we get to the end of the piece, we're going to repeat from that sign. So when we repeat, if we want to do more than one verse, we're going to go from that sign. We're not going to go right back to the very beginning to that first note G, but we're going to come in with the 2nd G of the piece, going to repeat from that repeat sign. You're pulling the bellows out at this point, so the usual reminder, pull them out slightly to start with, give yourself some margin of error for when you push them back in. We're not going to worry about the left hand at the moment, we're just going to push the bellows and pull the bellows while we're playing our right hand. We'll come back to our left hand, our accompaniment. The first bar has got 3 notes in it. They're all crotchets, they're all 1 beat notes, and they are G, C, D. So you've got G, C, D. Now notice that when I play that, just going to push my bellows in again, I play the G with my thumb. I've already played it once before, haven't I, in that anacrusis, if you like. So I've got G with the thumb, index finger on the C, and then tuck the thumb underneath for the D. The first bar has got 3 notes in it. They're all crotchets, they're all 1 beat notes, and they are G, C, D. So you've got G, C, D. Now notice that when I play that, just going to push my bellows in again, I play the G with my thumb. I've already played it once before, haven't I, in that anacrusis, if you like. So I've got G with the thumb, index finger on the C, and then tuck the thumb underneath for the D. Okay, we'll do quite a lot of that in this tune. And then we come to E in the next line, which is index finger. Okay. As I said in lesson 3, bars of 3 beats don't make sense on their own. You always need the first note in the next bar to make the little phrase make sense. So let's play from the very beginning. I'll count you in with a 2. Remember, you're coming in on beat 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now in that third bar, you've got the note E, and it's a minim. The head of the note is not filled in, so it lasts for 2 beats. And then on the third beat of the bar, the last beat of the bar, that beat is split into 2. You can see 2 notes, a C and a B, and they are joined at the top by a single line. Those notes are quavers, they're half a beat each, and they come on the count of 3 and. Now in that bar, you're going to jump your index finger from the E to the C. So it's a change of position halfway through. So let's play from the beginning up to the end of bar 3. So I'll count you in with a 2. 1, 2, 3, 3 and. There's those 2 quavers. 3 and. Now we come to the final bar of stave 1, or line 1 if you prefer to call it that, and the notes are A, F, F. Now the A, as you can see, is on the ledger line, the second ledger line down. It's on row 3, button 1, and we use our index finger, and then we bring our little finger, finger 4, over to the F, which is row 1, button 4. I'm not going to call these out every time because they are on that chart on the 3rd page. So you've got 3 crotchets there, very simple. 1, 2, 3, okay, 1 note per beat. And then on bar 5, and you'll notice the bars are numbered at the beginnings of the staves, apart from the first one. So that's what that number 5 is for at the beginning of the 2nd stave. So the F, it comes in again, it's a minim this time, so 2 beats. And then you're going to change position once you've held that note for 2 beats, and you're going to play the E with the index finger, and then you're going to replay the F, this time with the thumb. So a change of position, and those are quavers, those are on the counts of 3 and. And that completes your section as you pull the bellows out. So let's just close the bellows up a bit, and we'll play from the beginning up to there. Okay? So we've got 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So a little bit of dancing around with the right hand there, but believe me, it does make sense, and it does make it flow, and it makes it more comfortable for you as you're playing. So we're now pushing the bellows in. They've come out quite a long way in those first 4 bars. By the way, if you find that it's too much to play 4 bars, pulling out 4 bars, pushing in, you can halve that. Just play a couple of bars in each direction. That's fine as well, of course. So on bar 6, that's the 2nd bar of the 2nd stave, or 2nd line of music, you've got a G, and it's a crotchet, and it's actually a dotted crotchet. Now it's got a dot by the side of it, to the right of it, and that adds half of its value. Now its value is 1, so half of 1 is a half, so the total value is 1.5. Okay, so you can't really count 1.5 beats, can you? So what you do is you play that note on beat 1, you say 1, 2, okay, and the 2 is the, if you like, the first half of beat 2, and then the next note, the C, comes in halfway through beat 2 on that AND count. So let's give you a sense of what that sounds like. So you've got the G here, finger 2, and then you can have the C, finger 1. That's the timing. So the timing is 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. Slightly strange fingering there because you're changing position, okay, at that point when you go from the G to the C. So that's a dotted crotchet. Then you have a quaver, and that's what a quaver looks like on its own. We had a couple of quavers earlier, didn't we, on bar 3 and bar 5. This is what a single quaver looks like. It looks like a crotchet, but it's got a little hook as well. And then you end with a crotchet, and that's another C. So that bar again. Okay, and then next bar, pretty straightforward, C, B, C. Okay, index finger, thumb, index finger. Okay, and then on the next bar, this is the last bar of stave 2, we've got a D which is tied to another D. Quite a nice little thing we're going to do here. Check this out, we're going to go 2, 3. You'll notice that the D, the main note there, is tied to a D in the next bar. So the D in that last bar of stave 2 is a dotted minim, so it lasts for all 3 beats of that bar. And it's tied to a minim in the next bar, so the total value is 5. And when you get to the beginning of the next bar, once you've counted 3, you keep that D sounding, of course, and you add an F note on top with finger 3, and the effect is kind of a G7 chord. So you have this, like that, rather nice. And then on the final beat of that bar, you come in with that bottom G again with the thumb. So let's play bar 8 into bar 9. That's the last bar of stave 2 into the first bar of stave 3. So you have that, okay? Do it again for you. And then you're into the next section. So you can play chords with the right hand, and that's what we're doing there. We're sort of playing a little micro chord, a little G7, and of course when we add in the left hand a bit later on in the lesson, that'll sound even better. Now just notice that above that bottom G, that's the crotchet, bar 9, there's a funny little sign. That's a crotchet rest. We've dealt with one of those before, and it's a 1-beat rest, and it just tidies up that top part of the bar, because essentially we've got 2 kind of voices here. We've got the lower voice, which is the D, which is ringing on. If you think of it as 2 people singing, one person is kind of singing, if you like, the D, that's ringing on, and then another person comes in singing the F on top. They're not singing, of course, we're playing it on the accordion, but that's what we mean by voices. But you've got to make that make sense mathematically, that top voice. And of course that top note is a minim, only 2 beats, and that's why you have to have that crotchet rest just to make it right mathematically. So the next bit is the same as before. You're pulling the bellows out. So it's exactly the same as before until you get to bar 13 and you've got 2 Fs rather than the E F. You've got the 2 Fs fingered with the second finger, and then we have bars 14, 15 and 16 to round off that first page. And it's pushing the bellows in at this point. E, D, C, B, C, D, C. So we're pushing the bellows in. The fingers are 1 thumb, 1 thumb, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And of course that final C there is tied onto the next page to another C. So it's 2 dotted minims, so the total value is 6 beats. So let's play the whole of that. That's essentially the verse let's play that from the beginning, counting with the 2, and we are pulling our bellows out to start with, so get them in the starting position, and here we go. After 2, 1, 2. And that is our first page of music, and that essentially, as I said, is our verse. Let's go on into the chorus, which is on page 2. In this chorus we start with a couple of nice little harmonies. Now earlier we did this thing where we did we made that kind of micro G7 chord, and that essentially is a harmony, but this is a more traditional harmony that we have here. And basically you've got 2 notes, you've got a G and an E played simultaneously. So you've got finger 1 on the E, finger 2 on the G, and then we have our thumb on the D and our second finger on the F, so the index finger is ready for the E. And the top note, the G is the tune, the main note of the tune. If you just wanted to hear the tune, you just play that note. That note, where we have a little harmony, so we have, and that makes a really nice sound, doesn't it? So let's play from the bar 18, that's the beginning of the chorus. So 1, 2, 3. And notice I played those 2 bottom G notes in bar 21, those 2 quavers at the end of that bar, sort of bring the next section in. So I've marked all the tied notes with an asterisk. They wouldn't be marked like that normally. I've just done that so you can identify them easily. So, like I said, at the end of bar 21 you've got those 2 Gs. And you can hear, pretty straightforward there, G, G, C, 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 B, C, D, and we add in that F in that kind of staggered harmony that we did earlier. And the next bit is the same as before, isn't it? You've got this time. At that point I'm pushing the bellows in, but you may find once you've added the left hand in there, because it's fairly air hungry, in other words the more buttons you press the more air gets used up, the quicker the bellows are going to shut. You might find to do that final run up, which is C, E, G, C, you might find you need to reverse the bellows, pull them out so that you've got some air to fuel those last few notes. And quite nice there, you notice you're actually playing a full C major chord there. You've got the C, the E, the G, and another C there. So finger wise there, it's index, second, third and fourth fingers. And then you play the G at the end and you repeat. You see the repeat sign going the other way, it's marked, it says a repeat sign. Go back to where the sign is reversed, and that's from bar 2. So let's play that chorus. Let's play from bar 18 right down to and including bar 33. So after 3, 1, 2, 3. And that sounds pretty nice, I think. Now if you want to play more than one verse, then keep repeating from that repeat sign, which is at the beginning of bar 2. When you want to finally stop, just do so by, when you get to that last bar, bar 33, play the C, but don't go on and play the G, because obviously that brings you back in again. So just finish on that C. You may want to play 2 or 3 verses, or you may only want to play 1. If you only want to play 1, then you don't have to worry about that final G, just end with that run up, that C major chord. Okay, let's talk about the left hand now. Pretty exciting, we're going to add in an extra chord today. We've got our old friends C and G as usual, but we're going to add in our third chord of what we call our 3 chord trick, and that's F. Basically, when you're in the key of C, if you want a typical 3 chord pattern, 3 chords kind of folk song pattern, you need the chord built on the first note of the scale, which is obviously C. So you have the C bass and the C major chord. You want the chord built on the 5th degree of the scale, 5th note of the scale, which is G. So you have a G bass and a G major chord. And so to complete the pattern, so you've got a 3 chord pattern, you want the chord built on the 4th note or 4th degree of the scale, which is F. Now, we know that the C bass note is on our dimple. You might have a little rhinestone on your C bass button, but I've got a dimple on mine. I think that's fairly standard. The C major chord is diagonally above it on the next row. We know G bass and G major chord just above that, and the F bass note and F major chord are just below the C. So our 3 chord trick is in a nice little cluster. I'm going to get in close so that you can see that. So there is the C bass and the C major chord. Just above it, G bass and G major chord. Go back to the C, and the F is just underneath. So you've got C, G, C, F. And the same holds true anywhere on the Stradella bass where you've got enough buttons. We'll deal with that in other videos. But it's a nice handy little pattern, nice handy little cluster, isn't it? So in all these tunes, the bass is written in bold type above the stave, so you can see C, F, C, G, C, F, and so on. Don't get confused with the names of the notes. I've also put the names of the notes in. They're in a smaller font, but the big font letters are the chords. Now you'll notice there's nothing in the first bar, because you can actually play that first G and there's no backing chord. You start playing the bass on the second bar, and as is often the case with a 3 beats of the bar piece, or waltz if you like, you've got the classic pa pa, where the is the bass note and the 2 pars are the 2 major chords. Now above the 3rd bar there's no chord written, and that's because what you normally do is once you've started playing the C on bar 2, if there's nothing else written in bar 3, you carry on with the C. You change to the F chord, F bass note and F major chord in bar 4 there, and you notice on the beginning of stage 2, bar 5, no chord written, so you're carrying on with the F. It's so that you don't have to keep plastering the page with loads of chords. So there's 2 bars of C then, there's 2 bars of G, 2 bars of C, 2 bars of F, and the last 3 bars of that first page, 1 bar of C, 1 bar of G, 1 bar of C, carry on with C in the next bar, and then another bar of C, which I've written in again because that's the beginning of the chorus. A couple of bars of G, a couple of bars of C, in fact 4 bars of C in a row there. I'm sure you get the idea. When you want to finish the song, obviously play the bass note and the chord together. Don't end with an pa pa, because it kind of ends up in the air. That's that business of the bar of 3 not making sense on its own. So let's play you the left hand on its own, just without the right hand. So pulling out to start with, got C major, F major, pushing in, C major, G, pulling out again, C major, F major, still pulling out, pushing in now, C, G, C, C, pulling out, still C, G, C, C, pushing in, still C, and pulling out C, C, still pulling out F, F, pushing in C, G, C, and if you want to finish, play them together. Like I said, you might find that you might need to pull out for that because of what I mentioned earlier about that. All those notes being played simultaneously, you may run out of air if you're still pushing in, so you might want to pull out on the very ending. Okay, and just to remind you, play the bass note with your ring finger, and the major chord, play that with your middle finger. And they're all pretty close together, but once you've got your bearings, once you've found where you are, I don't think that's too hard because they're all fairly close. The problems come when you've got to start dancing around all over the place here, and we'll deal with that in subsequent videos. So here's the whole tune, right hand and left hand. If you've practiced and you want to play along with me, that's great. I'll count you in with the 2. You remember we're in on beat 3. So 1, 2. Now, you'll see I've got quite an armful of bellows there, so you may find that it's too much to do 4 bars in each direction, and you may want to change every 2 bars. So let's show you what that looks like. I'm just closing the bellows patiently here. Let's show you what that looks like, changing the bellows every 2 bars. 1, 2. Talking of bellows, a very good term I heard about using the bellows properly is keeping a weather eye on them. That means to say that, you know, when you're keeping an eye on the weather, you've got washing out or something, or you want to go out for the day, you know, keep an eye out for the weather. Well, keeping a weather eye on the bellows means just being aware of whether they're about to close or whether you're, you know, you've gone too far out and you're going to, you know, run out of arm to pull them out. Just keep a kind of an eye on them all the while you're playing, so that, you know, if you do run into problems, don't be frightened to change direction too early, because it's much better to change direction obviously than it is to run out of air. Obviously the plan always is to try and do an even number of bars in each direction, but sometimes that doesn't work out. You may have a load of notes in one direction, and so obviously you'll close, you'll open in a sort of an unequal way. So make sure, as I say, keep a weather eye on those bellows so that you don't run out of air. That's a really good term, isn't it, and a good trick. And that's something I've done with my melodeon playing, and something I do with this instrument as well. As far as looking after the bellows, try not to play with the bellows on your trousers or on your skirt, okay? Because if you're dragging the bellows backwards and forwards across your trousers or across your skirt, whatever you're wearing, you are going to wear them out. So it's always a good idea, I don't know if you can see this, to have the instrument on your left leg there, and make sure the bellows are free to open and close. Because as I say, if you start dragging them across clothing, the underside of the bellows here is going to get ruined, and then you're going to get leaks and all kinds of trouble. So that's a little tip for looking after your bellows. The other thing I want to say in this video is yes, we are reading music and we've got it all sort of technically written down, mathematically perfect, but don't be frightened to let yourself go. There's a danger with this kind of instrument that you're going to kind of stifle it a bit, stifle the sort of natural flow. And it is a very expressive instrument. So yes, of course, learn the piece by looking at the dots, as we call them, the musical notation. But once you've learnt it, then just let yourself go a bit. It's good to be really expressive, use those bellows. Let's see if I can show you what I mean. This time I'm just going to let myself go a bit and give it a bit of oomph, if you like. So that's the end of lesson 4. There was a lot in today's lesson, wasn't there? I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you're practicing hard, and I will see you in lesson 5.